FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.
Welcome, and you are listening to the Financial Survival Network. I'm Kerry Lutz. It's the day after July 4th, 2018. Hey, hope you enjoyed the fireworks display, but really it's been nothing compared to the fireworks happening in Washington, D.C. and around the globe. Well, hey, when it comes to trends, person we go to is Gerald Celente. And Gerald, your site, trendsresearch.com, must reading. Hey, but first, you got a question for Gerald or myself? Love it when you're part of the show and you participate. KL@kerrylutz.com is the email address. Gerald, welcome back.
Oh, thanks for having me on.
Hey, as always, so interesting things are going on in the world. Who would have thought that Trump would be greeting the dear leader of North Korea like he's a long-lost friend or, well, maybe a long-lost second cousin 3 times removed? What's your take on the whole North Korea gig?
Yes, Kerry, we were never really concerned about North Korea in the sense that it's a country with a GDP about half the size of West Virginia's, and they have a population of about size of Texas. And the reason they got armed themselves is because they made it clear. We saw what you did to Hussein in Iraq and what you did to Gaddafi, so you're not going to do that to us. And if the United States had attacked North Korea, say goodbye to South Korea. And Seoul, South Korea, for example, is only 35 miles from the DMZ, and the metropolitan area has over 20 million people.
Yeah.
So kiss them goodbye. So it was never going to happen. And what North Korea wants to do is to do business. And Trump is the art of the deal, and that's his way of doing business. He goes to the end and then pulls back. So, you know, it was a long time overdue, and it's the military-industrial complex that kept it going. And now they've ended those stupid war games. I mean, let's grow up with this stuff, war games, you know, the money that is costing us for this thing going on. We've been, by the way, you know, the United States has not declared war by the Constitution since World War II.
Yeah.
And only Congress has the right to vote to go to war, which these little cowardly lowlives have not done, and gave the power to the president. So going back to the Korean War, you know, again, you know, what was the purpose of the Korean War? Oh, those commies. We got to stop them commies.
Yeah, the domino theory, right?
Well, that was Vietnam.
But it was true in Korea as well.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying they used that term. Yeah. But again, here's the hypocrisy of it all. Look how they taught us to hate those communists.
Mm-hmm.
Look at all the money, the lives lost. Hey, but who's our biggest trading partner? What's it? Communist China, is it called?
I think so.
Their hypocrisy.
Yeah, totally. Isn't that the truth?
Yeah,
really?
I mean, you know, the sickness of these demented little lowlives that people love to bow down, suck up, and you know what, kiss, called Democrats and Republicans.
Yeah. So, but Trump didn't give into it, right?
No, and it's a positive for him.
Yeah. So, I mean, he's doing the same thing with Iran now. You can see it. Iran has other issues. And who knows how much of what's written in the press about them is true or not. But they're as bad to their own people as North Korea has ever been. So the fact is, the same thing is going to happen with Iran.
I don't know. I don't know about Iran. That's one of our major concerns. And, you know, again, going back to the history of Iran, you know, it's only ancient history, 1953, when the CIA and the MI6 overthrew the democratically elected government of Mossadegh. And the 2017, just about a year ago, they finally released the CIA documents, which did not make any of the U.S. media. And it showed how Churchill was pushing the CIA to overthrow the government because, quote, we need their energy. And of course, the energy was owned by Anglo-Iranian oil, better known
Correct.
today as BP and Standard Oil.
Yes.
So, there are a lot of issues going on, and there's a triumvirate that has been formed between the United States, Israel, and Saudi Arabia. And you want to talk about some sick SOBs, man. I know the Clown Prince is a wonderful guy. They paraded him around the United States for a while. Oh, and they're giving the women the right to drive. Well, blow me away, man. Isn't that something, huh? So anyway, I think that's a real big issue there, and that's the one we're most concerned about, because when Trump just put more sanctions on Iran and their fear of less oil hitting the supply chain, we're now looking at Brent crude touching $78, $80 a barrel.
Yeah.
And if there is an outbreak of war with Iran, and they're not North Korea or Iraq or Libya, this is a real war, kiss the equity markets goodbye. Because if oil spikes to $80 a barrel, $100 a barrel, you're going to see a worldwide meltdown, because the global economies are already getting weak. Correct. And then when you add oil into it, take a country like India that has the fastest rising GDP in the world. 80% of their energy is imported. Mm-hmm. The rupee right now, because the dollar is getting stronger, is at an all-time low against the dollar. Oil is based in dollars. So all these emerging markets, all these currencies that have been declining dramatically against the dollar, now they have to pay more for oil. So this is a big deal, and that's the one we're concerned about the most.
Well, if you look what Trump did in North Korea, he took the neocons right to the edge. They were chomping at the bit, and then he pulled the rug right out from underneath them. And I think he's probably going to do the same thing on Iran, but I think progress is going to be made there. Surprisingly, you never know with him, right? I mean, unpredictable.
Yeah, but that one is a bit different. We're looking at that a bit differently. We're looking at also. You mentioned there's a lot of problems going on there, and they're not going to go away. You're looking, for example, in Iran, you're looking at their currency. The RIAL, that has, it's gone down since Trump pulled out of the deal in was it May? Yeah, it's declined over 40%. Mm-hmm. You have real problems there with a third of the people under 30 years old in Iran are out of work. Right. You have skyrocketing inflation. Mm-hmm. So you have there already unrest going on. And whether the overthrow of the regime is overt or covert, we think that is the bottom line that the United States, Israel, and Saudi Arabia are looking at.
Yeah, well, the soil is fertile for it. People are really unhappy, and nothing will get to a populace more than a rapidly declining currency unit, leading to hyperinflation or, throughout history, you want to destabilize a country, destabilize the currency. And the British tried it during the Revolutionary War, counterfeiting all of these Continental Congress reserve notes, and it was pretty effective. So how are the Mullahs going to hold on to power at this point, Gerald?
Yeah, again, it's going to be it's shaky. And again, you're talking about currencies, and that's what we're talking about was the major issue going on in the world economy. The dollar, I would have thought the dollar was going to get weaker this year. Not based on our research, but based upon what the Treasury Secretary Mnuchin said in Davos. Yes. That the United States wanted a weak dollar. So I believed it. I figured, okay, this guy's the Treasury Secretary, that's they're pushing for. But that's not what happened. Yeah. And now going back, you want to talk about inflation and interest rates. How about that place called Argentina? Yeah. What do they got? 40% interest rates over there. The pesos collapsed. You're looking at the Chinese yuan, and they're not bringing it down on purpose because they're very concerned about capital outflows that happened when it went down in 2015 and 2016. Right. It's down this in June. it had its biggest 1 month drop since they got into the game back in 1994. And so we're going back to this one country after another that, again, the commodities are based in dollars. The stronger the dollar gets, these emerging markets they have about $11 trillion in dollar-denominated debt. As their currencies plunge, they got to pay back that debt with more of their devalued currencies. That is our major concern globally. You're also looking at China with lousy numbers coming in, numbers that have been the worst since 1996 on investment levels. You're seeing the government trying to juice the markets with more money going into them. So we're worried about a global slowdown. But again, what we're most concerned about is an outbreak of violence in the Middle East, because again, China, they're the largest importer of oil in the world.
Yeah.
So if oil prices spike and you already see weakening economies, that to us is going to cause a global equity market crash.
Yeah, that's the death knell, conceivably, for the whole shooting match. And yeah, so what about the strengthening dollar? You mentioned it, not expected. Some cycle guys were saying, yes, the dollar is going to get stronger and you'll see the euro go down to parity. They said that 2-3 years ago, Gerald, when the euro was in trouble, the Eurozone was in trouble. And yet it never quite happened. But right now, it's at 1.16. So in other words, $1.16 is the cost per euro. That's if it breaks 1.15, what's going to happen here?
Well, as you mentioned, there are a number of people that said the dollar would get stronger, and it has. And one of the reasons, of course, being the other currencies got weak is because of Trump's tax plan. And that permits the U.S. corporations from repatriating trillions of dollars that was stored overseas. So as that money leaves those countries and that currency, those currencies get weaker. And by the way, that's what's driving up the equity market still. It's record level at this time of the year of stock buybacks and merger and acquisition activity. It's a fact. Mm-hmm. So now, to answer your question about the euro, by the way, I was in Italy in 2002 when the euro just became like official. And I think it was like 86 to the dollar, 86 cents back then. But anyway, what happened with the European Central Bank? Back in early June, they met and they said that they were going to end their quantitative easing scheme by the end of this year. And now they changed that. Then they're saying that it might not end this year, maybe sometime next year. Oh, and by the way, we'll raise interest rates from negative territory maybe in September of 2019. Mm-hmm. So the dollar is staying strong for fundamental reasons as well as the other nations' problems. And of course, China, as I mentioned, India, the rupee is at an all-time low against the dollar. You're looking at the Eurozone. Now you're looking at a slowdown in growth.
Right.
And that's the opposite of what had been forecast at the beginning of the year by the IMF and the World Bank and the other major groups out there that were doing the forecasts. So I believe the downside risk of the euro is going to continue. And as you said, they had said that the euro would be at parity, dollar to dollar, euro to dollar. Goldman Sachs, by the way, was the one that made that forecast about a year ago, and it hasn't happened. But I think the dollar is just going to maintain its strength because the other currencies are getting so weak. And again, it goes back in some dimension to oil prices. It's the petrodollar. They're based in dollars. The higher oil prices go, the weaker those economies go, and the stronger the dollar remains.
Yeah, it's an interesting phenomenon. So I'm just going to shift gears a little bit to what's going on here in the U.S., the silent coup, the way they tried to take out Trump. Obviously, the intelligence agencies were involved in it, the FBI, the CIA, evidently. Everyone in the Obama administration seemed to have been out to get Trump. And what's the trend here? What have we missed? that you've picked up on long ago?
Well, you've said it. There, in my lifetime, and I'm a political atheist. I don't like any of these people. Just to make it clear,
for good reason too.
Yeah, and I've never seen anything like this. I'm the same age as Trump. I've never seen this in my lifetime. After we had an election, it used to be, well, you may not like who got elected, but we're Americans. We have to stick together and support who got elected. Not this time. Matter of fact, the headline story in USA Today, I'll never forget it, right after Election Day was, new president enters White House with something like 76 lawsuits. You know? And again, the Russians are coming. Not one shred of evidence. Yeah. Not one shred of evidence. And these little low-life prostitutes keep putting it out there as though there is. So I believe that there's nothing in the way to stop Trump. He knows how to play the game, and he's going to keep playing it. And it's terrible what's happened to this nation when you hear about things like people talking about Civil War 2.0 and the divisiveness. However, having said that, as trend forecasters and doing business with businesses, we recommend to our clients, play the come together trend. While the divisiveness is going on very strong in all dimensions, from me too, to you too, to everywhere you want to go, the most successful ad campaign during a time of civil unrest and war, Vietnam War, was Coca-Cola's I Like to Bring the World a Coke in Perfect Harmony. It was a sensational hit. Yeah. It worked. Mm-hmm. And what the marketers are not doing is taking the opposite direction of what the political and morons are taking us in. And there is a lot of sentiment in this country for unity, but no one seems to want to play it.
Yeah. Hey, it's interesting because Trump really mastered the game here. And look, you're a communicator, Gerald, so you look at what he does with a couple of tweets, and then look at his political death list. I mean, he doesn't actually send people 6 feet under, but he's dispatched dozens and dozens of his enemies over the past year. When you look at that list, it's impressive. And then you look and you say, can a Nancy Pelosi, can a crying Chuck Schumer, can Mad Max Waters stop him? And the answer has to be no.
No, there's nobody there. And that's what we're telling. Again, the divisiveness is started from the Democrats. And so play the other card, play the independent card. And that's what no one seems to be doing. Again, selling Coke is the real thing. This commercial that featured a multicultural collection of singing teenagers on the top of a hill. Mm-hmm. You know, nearly a half century later, you know, those of us that were old enough to remember it, Teach the World to Sing in Perfect Harmony, still rings in our hearts and minds.
Yeah.
And so while the divisiveness is going on, play the other card. And whether you're doing it in music, whether you're doing it in marketing, whether you're doing it in any way you want to do it, if you're running for office, play the come together card.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. It's a fascinating time here to be alive. You know, we see all these innovations, the technology, everything else, but your average person in the world is still as miserable as they were 20 or 30 years ago, Gerald. Where, you know, that theme of bringing the world together in perfect harmony, I think it really does resonate.
Yeah. You know, again, you know, I grew up during that era. You know, I know what it was like. You know, every it's always, when you're there at the time, it's always, you know, this is terrible what's going on. It's terrible what's going on. And then you look back and you say, wow, wish I was back there. You know, the America had a thing. Oh, we just celebrated the 4th of July. What was it called? Liberty?
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah, we didn't have a homeland security. We weren't getting felt up at the airport. The cops weren't stopping you. Get out of the car. Where'd you come from? How many drinks did you have? Stand on your head. Repeat the alphabet backwards. You know, that kind of stuff wasn't going on.
God, you're so right.
You know, where there are terrible things going on in other ways, of course. But, you know, as I said, you always wish, you know, that things would get better. But by God, the liberty and freedom that we've lost since back then in this country with the militarized police state and the mentality of the political world, It's just, again, there are no protests going on against the wars that continue with Afghanistan and Iraq and
none.
There's destruction of Libya. The only reason they were protesting back then is because they had the draft.
Yes, exactly.
But anyway.
Naked self-interest.
That's it.
Hey, well, I was at a 4th of July fireworks display, and leading up to it is in Delray Beach, Florida. They have one of those MRAP vehicles, mine-resistant anti-whatever vehicles that they use in Afghanistan for the IEDs, the improvised explosive devices. And it's like, what is that thing doing here? Why do we need this here? But it was blocking off the intersection where the fireworks were taking place, so nobody could run a car through there. Again,
look what's happened to the country. Yeah, when we went to school, whoever thought of getting killed in school?
Yeah.
And now you go into school, it's like we need metal detectors, on and on and on. So again, it's a bigger issue to me. It's matter of fact, Kerry, on September 22nd of this year, we're launching an Occupy Peace Festival.
Oh, great.
And I realized when I launched Occupy Peace in 2015, had Ralph Nader, Cindy Sheehan, Robert Thurman, et cetera, people don't care about war. So I'm making it a festival. Mm-hmm. And it's Occupy Peace, Liberty, Love, Joy, and Beauty, Join the Evolution. And I'm taking it out of the anti-war sentiment and bringing peace to a broader level. Because in my belief, we will not have advancement until we have morality and integrity. And talking about love, joy, and beauty, there was a thing called a Renaissance.
Yes.
And it happened because of art. Art, to me, is the way of finding the true meaning of the human spirit. And it's been lost. It's been lost in self-aggrandizement in the sense that it's only about me and not for you, the people. And that's so Occupy Peace Festival that we're launching here in Kingston on September 22nd of this year. We put in all if we get the permits, because the mayor and I have a major issue. It's a little environmental fraud. He destroyed the trees in front of the 1774 Senate House and two other of my buildings, the 1750 Franz Roggen House and the 1763 Person House. And he refuses to replace them or repair the damage. So we may not get the permit, but I'll fight to get it. But absent that, we're launching a peace festival because to me, Kerry, that's what has to happen. We have to, like you said, you go to see fireworks and there you see this thing from Afghanistan sitting in the street. Is there another way to stop this from happening? Could you park a couple of police cars there?
Yeah. Gerald, I'm totally with you on that. You just see, you're one of the few people that even talks about what people used to wear in the good old days when you used to go on an airplane in the 60s and 70s and you'd wear nice clothing rather than flip-flops, ragged shorts or, really disgusting clothing. It's so disconcerting. Not many people talk about that decline in the appearance of the average American besides you.
Oh, there's an expression, you mentioned the airports, that pigs can't fly. You've been to the airport lately?
Yeah, I think that expression is wrong now, isn't it?
Yeah, just go to the airport. You see pigs flying everywhere. And that's what I'm trying to say. It's about morality and integrity, self-respect and dignity. And those words aren't spoken or thought about anymore. You go back to the Great Depression. It was the happiest, hottest music this country ever knew, swing time. People were dressed to the nines. They tried to hide their poverty by feeling better and looking better. And again, there was another element going on during the Depression. No war.
Yeah, very true. All of these things, and it's so sad because I look at my grandparents, actually great-grandparents' 50th wedding anniversary. Took place sometime, I guess, in the 20s or 30s. I don't even know. But all members of my family have this picture. I found other people on Ancestry websites who posted that picture, and these people were dressed like impeccably, and they didn't have much money back then. They really didn't.
I know. There were laborers, they were struggling, living in tenements. I know. Yeah. And that's what's missing. And just on another note, just quickly, gold.
Yeah.
As you well know, I've been saying for 5 years, gold has to break over 1475 an ounce, 1450 rather, and it hasn't. The downside risk of gold we see is about another $50. And because it costs about $1,200 to pull it out of the ground. I do not give financial advice. I am not recommending this to anyone. I'm only speaking for myself. The way I began my career in freeing myself from the corporate world is I started playing gold futures back in the late 1970s and gold and oil. Matter of fact, with the Iranian crisis, I bet that oil prices and gold prices would go up. If I were a gambler, I'd be going long on gold in the futures, and I'm going several months out because I think there's going to be a spike back because of the destabilization issues that I was talking about before. The only thing that's keeping gold down is a strong dollar. And when other elements come in that don't make that the primary issue, I would suggest that gold prices are going to go higher.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree. And I think the setback that we've seen over the past couple of weeks in precious metals prices, which interestingly enough, partially reversed the day before yesterday, I think it's indicative of a trend here, a trend reversal. And we're in a weak seasonal part of the year for precious metals. But still, when you look at it, it's been very strong relative strength-wise. Silver's back over $16 an ounce. Gold is pushing $1,260. We're going to break the 1,300 again, probably the fourth quarter of the year.
Again, it goes back to the dollar. And it's the dollar that pushed it down. And there's the other issue, as I mentioned, is about the weakening currencies. So the weaker their currencies go, the more difficult it is for them to buy gold. So gold prices for those people are going up.
Right, exactly.
And they're going to want to buy more as their currencies devalue more.
For sure. Well, Gerald, it's interesting times. Hey, once again, I know we've talked about Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies before. What's your gut feel about them?
Our feeling is, matter of fact, we just came out with our top trends of 2018 mid-year report, and we're saying cryptos are here to stay. And the reason you're seeing it staying is that the establishment is getting into it. There's going to be more and more nations as they put regulations on that keeps driving the prices down. They were highly overvalued. Even as you're speaking about a Bitcoin, for example, that fell from $20,000 basically a coin to down around the $6,000 range. Oh, $6,000?
Yeah.
$6,000? So we don't see them going away. The world is going digital. It's going cashless. And there's going to be continuing growth in cashless and blockchain technology that ties very closely into it. So we see the future staying in cryptos. The strong ones will stay. The weak ones will go.
Hey, well, I'm inclined to agree with you on that. And I think Bitcoin has just set the trend, but there's a lot more to come. We're barely at the end of the first inning of cryptocurrencies. Hey, Gerald, where do we find out about your upcoming Occupy Peace Festival and subscription alternatives on your publication?
Well, you could get our publication by going to trendsjournal.com, trendsjournal.com. Now the Trends Journal used to be a quarterly, now it's a monthly.
Oh, great.
And we put trend alerts out each week.
I got them.
Trends in the news broadcasts. And it's only $99 a year. It was at 20-something cents a day.
Yeah, that's
and again, it's the only place guaranteed. Your $99 money back guaranteed. What we put out, you won't read anywhere else. And you made a very important point about crypto. It's born. There's no experts in this field. Trends are born, they grow, they mature, reach old age, and die. This one's just been born. But as long as the establishment, the Goldman Sachs and others get into it, you can see the future is going to grow. And on Occupy Peace, we haven't put out the Occupy Peace Festival yet, but you could go to occupypeace.com and you can see what it's all about.
Hey, well, It's exciting. I'm definitely going to try to make it there.
Oh, that'd be great.
Yeah, I'd love to. So, hey, what's your Twitter handle?
Gerald Celente.
Okay, so find him at Gerald Celente. Find us at Kerry Lutz. The Facebook page, Financial Survival Network. I'm sure we've been shadow banned by everyone, but if you go directly to it, it doesn't matter. Try to post some entertaining things. Go subscribe to the show on iTunes, or if you're listening on YouTube, click that subscribe button and the bell. You'll automatically get notified. Gerald, it's always great having you on, and we're going to touch base with you in a couple months and see how this Iran thing's worked out, where the currencies are heading, and where we're all heading to next. Always appreciated.
Well, thank you so much, Kerry, for having me on, and thank you for all that you do.
FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.